What's up, guys? Mr. Dan here, back again with another vehicular terror review. Today we'll be featuring the film The Highwaymen from early 2000s. You know, I've been watching, of course, the Tuesday Top 2s and now the redos from Horrific Nightmares, JM, Joe the Harman, and Bronco Juggalo. And I don't really know, what my favorite top films from this year would be, but I could imagine this one could really come in and elbow some of my favorites out of the top spots. This was a really solid film. I learned about this film from Dr. Gangrene's Wheels of Terror countdown that he did back in October, and I had never heard of it before. It completely slipped by me, and this is basically a sort of a cat and mouse revenge film about essentially a psychopathic serial killer who uses his car as a weapon. And yes, this did come out before Tarantino's film Death Proof by a few years. And there's essentially 4 people in this film, plus a few others, and the other ones are the ones that end up being the victims. And what we have here is a man and his wife on a trip. I don't recall if it's their honeymoon. They're out in the Southwest somewhere at a motel. The guy goes out in the fire escape or the balcony of their motel, and he's looking at his wife, admiring how beautiful his wife is as she's walking across the street to like a fruit stand or something. And out of nowhere, she is run down by a guy in like a souped up, I think it's like a 72 Eldorado. So he becomes enraged and jumps in his car and gives chase, and it's a great scene. And the guy in the Eldorado maneuvers around a truck in such a way that the Jim Caviezel character runs into him. So 2 things happen. He goes to prison. The hero of the story goes to prison for several years, and the villain becomes, I believe, a paraplegic. So he is, the next time you see him, I mean, he is now his car is specially outfitted, because he's wearing these like braces. I mean, his whole body is covered in these braces, and that has not stopped him or slowed him down at all. He is now out finding new victims, and he is truly a psychopath. I mean, he runs them down. He will back up, make sure the job is done, and then take a souvenir. And if it's not a physical object, it's a picture. And the Jim Caviezel character has gotten out of prison, and he is a completely transformed person. He's now totally dedicated to finding this guy. He has his own vehicle, and I can't recall what make and model it is. But if you're into like old muscle cars, this is a movie for you. And he's become a completely changed person. He ends up working with a woman whose sister, I believe it was her sister, was a victim of the killer. And he says something to her like, back in the old days, before I learned how to drive. So now he kind of considers himself to be like a very skilled driver, and it would appear that that's true. So he is interviewed by someone from I don't know, the Department of Transportation, something like that, Transportation Safety Board or something. A guy who's played by Frankie Faison, who we've seen in. I mean, this guy's been around for decades. Everything from Silence of the Lambs to Mississippi Burning to the Luke Cage series. It's a great role for him. He's a very sympathetic character. He's like this sort of authority type figure who kind of doesn't want to believe it, but the evidence starts to mount, and he becomes more and more involved in the rest of the film. And it's basically just the story of the Jim Caviezel character trying to keep this woman safe and essentially trying to take out the bad guy. And you just see the crazy, the lengths that the bad guy will go. I mean, he is like incapacitated and in physical pain, and he's still out there trying to kill people. Then we also learn about, the Jim Caviezel character has gone through a complete transformation we learn about, which I thought was a great explanation of that. But then we learn about the backstory of the killer. This is the kind of movie like it. There's so much. There's a lot of story in here in a movie that is about where much of it takes place on the highways. We learn about the origin of the killer and why he is like that. It has to do with his father and the job his father had, and some of the things he saw when he was younger. So it's like a great origin to why the bad guy is doing this. And it's just a very solid film. I mean, it I was thinking maybe if it was made in the 80s, it would be a little grimier, but I don't know. I like it the way it is. I mean, it's just a really solid film. Highly recommend it. If you're into cars and horror movies, and if you're into vehicular terror, I would definitely check it out. All right, guys, this has been another vehicular terror review. I'll be back soon with more reviews. What are some of your favorite vehicle-themed horror movies? Let me know in the comments below. I'm looking for some ones I haven't seen yet, and I may check out and review some of the classics as well. All right. Thanks a lot. Later.